নমস্কার। জেমস ক্লার্ক ম্যাক্সওয়েলের আজকে জন্মদিন। 199 বছর আগে তিনি পৃথিবীতে এসেছিলেন এবং তার ম্যাথমেটিশিয়ান এবং বিজ্ঞানী হিসেবে তিনি পরিচিতি লাভ করেন। তো যাই হোক, আমাদের এই বিজ্ঞানের দিশারি 1 বছর পার হয়ে আজকে তারপরে প্রথম দিনের অনুষ্ঠান। আমাদের এই অনুষ্ঠানে আমাদের বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ের মাননীয় উপাচার্য অধ্যাপক সৈকত মৈত্র মহাশয় রয়েছেন। আমরা প্রথমে তার কাছে একটু এ বিষয়ে শুনে নেব এবং ছাত্রছাত্রীদের তিনি কি উপদেশ দেন সেটা একটু শুনে নেব। তারপরে আমরা ছাত্রছাত্রীদের অনুষ্ঠানে যাব। স্যার, আপনি যদি একটু দু একটা কথা বলেন ছাত্রছাত্রীদের।
ঠিক আছে, থ্যাংক ইউ মিস্টার আশিস পোদ্দার। আমাদের এই বিজ্ঞানের দিশারি অনুষ্ঠান সম্প্রতি এটি 1 বছর পূর্ণ করলো এবং আজ একটা বিশেষ দিন, কারণ আজ যে বিজ্ঞানীর উপর আলোচনা হবে ছেলেমেয়েরা যে বিজ্ঞানীর উপর আলোচনা করবে তিনি এই পৃথিবীতে ইলেকট্রোম্যাগনেটিক যে রিসার্চ বা গবেষণা তাতে একটা যুগান্তকারী কাজ করে গেছিলেন। ম্যাক্সওয়েলের যে ল বার করে, ফর্মুলা বার করে, ল বার করে, যার উপরে নির্ভর করে যে আমাদের যন্ত্রবিজ্ঞান, আমাদের ইঞ্জিনিয়ারিং সায়েন্স অনেকটা কিন্তু তার অগ্রগতি হয়ে গেছে। এখন আজকে আমাদের যে বিজ্ঞানের দিশারি অনুষ্ঠান, সেখানে ছাত্রছাত্রীরা ম্যাক্সওয়েলের উপরে গবেষণা করে তারা তাদের যে মতামত বা তাদের যে অভিমত সেটা তারা পেশ করবে। আমাদের এই অনুষ্ঠান শুরু করার প্রথম উদ্দেশ্যই ছিল যে ছাত্রছাত্রীদের আরো গবেষণামূলক কাজে আরো বেশি করে তাদের নিয়োজিত করা। এবং এখানে আমরা দেখতে পাচ্ছি অত্যন্ত আনন্দের সঙ্গে 1 বছরের ওপর ধরে বিভিন্ন অনুষ্ঠানে বিভিন্ন বিজ্ঞানীর এই জন্মদিবস পালন করতে ছাত্রছাত্রীরা তারা অপরিসীম আগ্রহ এবং উৎসাহ দেখিয়েছে। এর পাশাপাশি বলতে হয় যে যে স্কুল থেকে এই ছাত্রছাত্রীরা অংশগ্রহণ করেছে সেই স্কুলের শিক্ষক শিক্ষিকাদের ভূমিকার কথা। তারাও এই ছাত্রছাত্রীদের সহায়তা করেছেন, তাদেরকে মূল্যবান নির্দেশ দিয়েছেন, পরামর্শ দিয়েছেন। এবং আমি নিজে ব্যক্তিগতভাবে দেখেছি অনেকগুলি উপস্থাপনা অত্যন্ত উচ্চমানের হয়েছে। আজও তার নিশ্চয় ব্যতিক্রম হবে না। এবং আমাদের এই স্কুলের সংখ্যা যারা আমাদের সঙ্গে যুক্ত হয়ে আছে সেটা বেড়েই চলেছে। আগামী দিনে আমাদের আরো বেশি সংখ্যক স্কুল আমাদের সঙ্গে যুক্ত হবে, আরো বেশি ছাত্রছাত্রী এই অনুষ্ঠানে অংশগ্রহণ করবে এবং বিজ্ঞানীদের নিয়ে যে চিন্তা ভাবনা গবেষণা সেটা বিজ্ঞান পেশা হিসেবে বিজ্ঞান গ্রহণ করার জন্য তারা একটা নিশ্চয়ই সেদিকে লক্ষ্য রাখবে এবং বৈজ্ঞানিক চিন্তা ভাবনা বা বিজ্ঞান মনস্কতা এটা নিজেদের মধ্যে তৈরি করবে। আমাদের এই অনুষ্ঠান যে বিজ্ঞান দিশারি অনুষ্ঠান যে পরিচালনা করেন যারা সুপ্রিয় তরফদার, আশিস পোদ্দার, ডক্টর সুব্রত রায়চৌধুরী, প্রেম কুমার এবং অন্যান্য যারা আছেন তাদের প্রত্যেককে অভিনন্দন জানাচ্ছি এই অনুষ্ঠানটিকে বিশেষভাবে সফল করার জন্য। এবং আমাদের আগামী দিনে আরো পরিকল্পনা রয়েছে যে কি করে অনলাইনের সঙ্গে সঙ্গে যে ছাত্রছাত্রীদের আমাদের যে ইউনিভার্সিটি ক্যাম্পাস সেখানে নিয়ে এসে এরকম ধরনের অনুষ্ঠানে তাদেরকে সে অংশগ্রহণ করানোর সুযোগ করে দেওয়া যায় কিনা সেটা দেখা। আপাতত আমরা অনলাইন অনুষ্ঠান চালাচ্ছি, কিন্তু ভবিষ্যতে আমাদের একটা মিশ্র পদ্ধতিতে যেখানে অনলাইন এবং সরাসরি সামনে এসে অনুষ্ঠান করা দুটোই সম্ভব হয়তো হবে এবং সেদিকে লক্ষ্য রেখে আমরা পরিকাঠামো তৈরি করছি। ছাত্রছাত্রী যারা অংশগ্রহণ করছেও তাদের জন্য আমার রইল অকুণ্ঠ ভালোবাসা এবং শুভেচ্ছা। তোমরা অত্যন্ত ভালো করে তোমরা নিজেদের উপস্থাপনাগুলো পেশ করো এবং ভবিষ্যতে সফল হও নিজের ক্ষেত্রে, এই কামনা করলাম। আর প্রত্যেককে শুভেচ্ছা জানিয়ে ধন্যবাদ জানিয়ে আমি শেষ করছি। যারা এখানে উপস্থিত রয়েছেন আশিস পোদ্দার এবং সুপ্রিয় তরফদার, আপনারা অনুষ্ঠানটিকে পরিচালনা করুন এবং ছাত্রছাত্রীদের বলার সুযোগ করে দিন। ধন্যবাদ।
ধন্যবাদ স্যার। আমাদের বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ের উপাচার্য অধ্যাপক সৈকত মৈত্র মহাশয় তিনি তার জ্ঞানগর্ভ বক্তব্য রাখলেন। ছাত্রদেরকে বিজ্ঞান মনস্ক করে তোলার যে প্রয়াস, বিজ্ঞানের দিশারি যে অনুষ্ঠানটা আমরা নিয়েছি সেটা মূলত আমাদের উপাচার্য মহাশয়ের মস্তিষ্ক প্রসূত। তিনি আজকে একটা নতুন কথাও বললেন, নতুন পরিকল্পনার কথা বললেন। তিনি জানালেন যে আমাদের এই অনুষ্ঠানটা এতদিন তো অনলাইন হয়ে আসছে, পরিস্থিতির পরিপ্রেক্ষিতেই অনলাইনটা হচ্ছিল। তা আগামীতে আমাদের স্যারের পরিকল্পনা যে এটাকে আমরা অফলাইন, দ্যাট ইজ মুখোমুখি আমাদের ক্যাম্পাসের ছাত্রছাত্রীদের ডেকে এনে এই পরিকল্পনাটা করার। যাই হোক, সেদিকের দিকেই আমরা তাকিয়ে আছি, কবে আমরা এই ছাত্রছাত্রীদের মুখোমুখি অনুষ্ঠানে উপস্থিত করতে পারবো। এরপরে আমরা মূল অনুষ্ঠানে ঢুকে যাব। তার আগে বলি, আমাদের এই স্কুল কানেক্ট ডিভিশনের যিনি উপদেষ্টা শুভব্রত রায়চৌধুরী, তিনিও রয়েছেন অনুষ্ঠানে, তাকে স্বাগত জানাই। জানিয়ে আমি মূল অনুষ্ঠানের দিকে যাই। আমরা এবার প্রথম যে ছাত্রীটিকে ডেকে নেব সে হচ্ছে শ্বেতাদ্রি কুন্ডু, আর্ট ভবনের ক্লাস।
হ্যাঁ স্যার। হ্যালো।
Yes, Svetadri Kundu.
হ্যাঁ বলবো।
You may proceed. Yes, please proceed.
James Clerk Maxwell was a Scottish mathematician and scientist responsible for the classical theory of electromagnetic radiation, which was the first theory to describe electricity, magnetism, and light as different manifestations of the same phenomena. Maxwell's equation for electromagnetism have been called the second great unification in physics, where the first one had been realized by Isaac Newton. Apart from certain proposition of certain theories, he was also involved with certain institutions like Marshall College, University of Aberdeen, King's College, University of Cambridge. With the publication of a dynamical theory of the electromagnetic field in 1865, Maxwell demonstrated that electric and magnetic fields travel through space as waves moving at the speed of light. He proposed that light is an undulation in the same medium that is the cause of electric and magnetic phenomena. The unification of light electrical phenomena had led his prediction of the existence of radio waves. Maxwell is also regarded as the founder of the modern field of electrical engineering. One second, sir. The concept of electromagnetic radiation originated with Maxwell and his field questions based on Michael Faraday's observations of the electric and magnetic lines of force. It paved the way for Einstein's special theory of relativity, which established the equivalence of mass and energy. Maxwell's ideas also ushered in the other major innovations of 20th century physics. In the quantum theory, physics, such as in the quantum theory, his description of electromagnetic radiation led to the development of the ultimately unsatisfactory theory of heat radiation, which can also be considered as a law. This law of heat radiation prompted Max Planck's formulation of quantum hypothesis, that is the theory that radiant heat energy is emitted only in finite amounts, or quanta. The interaction between electromagnetic radiation and matter, integral to Planck's hypothesis, in turn has played a central role in the development of theory structure of atoms and molecules. Thus, it can be concluded that James Clerk Maxwell was one of the leading scientists of his era, and he can also be considered as one of the scientists who have contributed the greatest in the field of electromagnetism and helped in the modernization of electric engineering. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Svetadri Kundu, for your nice speech. Ashishda, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Sweta Kundu, for your speech. Now we would like to invite Maitreya S. Lama from Saptarishi Gyanapith Kalimpong. Yes, sir. Maitreya S. Lama, please proceed.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Maitreya S. Lama, and I'm from Saptarishi Gyanapith, which is located in Kalimpong. And today I'm going to put some light in the life of James Clerk Maxwell, who was a Scottish mathematician and scientist responsible for the classic theory of electromagnetic radiation, which was the first theory to describe electricity, magnetism, and light as different manifestations of the same phenomenon. James Clerk Maxwell was born on 13 June 1831 at 14th Ingas Street, Edinburgh, to John Clerk Maxwell of Middleby, an advocate, and Francis K. Maxwell was young. His family moved to Gloucester. All indications suggest that Maxwell has maintained an unquenchable curiosity from an early age. By the age of 3, everything that moved, shone, or made a noise drew his attention. In a passage added to a letter from his father to his sister-in-law Jane K. in 1834, his mother described this innate sense of inquisitiveness. He is a very happy man and has improved months since the weather got moderate. He has great worth with doors, locks, keys, etc., and show me how it does is never out of his mouth. He also investigates the hidden courses of streams and well buyers, the way water gets from the pond through the wall. Recognizing the boy's potential, Maxwell's mother, Frances, took the responsibility for his early education, which in the Victorian era was largely the job of the women of the house. At 8, he could recite long passages of Milton and the whole of 119th Psalm, 176 verses. Indeed, his knowledge of scriptures was already detailed. He could give chapters and verse for almost any quotations from the Psalm. His mother was taken ill with abdominal cancer and after an unsuccessful operation died in December 1839. When he was 8 years old. A dull and uninspired tutor was engaged who claimed that James was slow at learning, though in fact he displayed a lively curiosity at an early age and had a phenomenal memory. Fortunately, he was reserved by his aunt Jane K. and from 1841 was sent to school at the Edinburgh Academy. Maxwell's interests ranged far beyond the school syllabus, and he did not pay particular attention to examination performance. His first scientific paper, published when he was only 14 years old, described a generalized series of oval curves that could be traced with pins and threads by analogy with our eclipse. This fascination with geometry and with mechanical models continued throughout his career and was a great help in his subsequent research. At the age of 16, he entered the University of Edinburgh, where he read ferociously on all the subjects and published 2 more scientific papers. In 1850, he went to the University of Cambridge, where his exceptional powers began to be recognized. His mathematics teacher, William Hopkins, was a well-known wrangler maker. His students included Tate, George Gabriel, later Sir George Stokes, William Thomson, later Basin Calvin, Arthur Cayley, and Edward John Roth. Of Maxwell, Hopkins is reported to have said that he was the most extraordinary man he had ever met, that it seemed impossible to think wrongly on any physical subject, but that in analysis, he was far more deficient. Other contemporaries also testified to Maxwell's preference for geometrical over other methods. His crude assessment was later born out by several important formulas advanced by Maxwell that obtained correct results from faulty mathematical arguments. In 1860, the University of Aberdeen was formed by a merger between King's College and Marischal College, and Maxwell was declared redundant. He applied for a vacancy at University of Edinburgh, but he was turned down in favor of his school friend Tate. He then was appointed to the professorship of National Philosophy at King's College London. The next 5 years were undoubtedly the most fruitful of his career. During this period, his 2 classic papers on the electromagnetic fields were published, and his demonstration of color photography took place. He was elected to the Royal Society in 1861. His theoretical and experimental work on the viscosity of gases also was undertaken during these years and culminated in a lecture to the Royal Society in 1866. He supervised the experimental determination of electrical units for the British Association for the Advancement of Science. And this work is measured and standardized led to the establishment of the National Physical Laboratory. He also measured the ratio of electromagnetic and electrostatic units of electricity and confirmed that it was in satisfactory agreement with the velocity of light as predicted by his theory. It was Maxwell's research on electromagnetism that established him among the great scientists of history. In addition to his electromagnetic theory, Maxwell made major contribution to other areas of physics. While still in his 20s, he demonstrated his mastery of classic physics by writing an essay on Saturn's ring, in which he concluded that the rings must consist of masses of matter not mutually coherent, a conclusion that was corroborated more than 100 years later by the first Voyager space probe to Research Center. Though Maxwell did not originate the modern kinetic theory of gases, he was the first to apply the methods of probability and statistics in describing the properties of an assembly of molecules. In addition to this well-known contribution, a number of ideas that Maxwell put formed quite casually have since led development of great significance. His work in geometrical optics led to discovery of fish's eye lens. From the start of his career to his finish, his papers are filled with novelty and interest. He also was a contributor on the 9th edition of Encyclopedia Britannica. During the Easter term of 1879, Maxwell took ill on several occasions. He returned to Glenner in June, but his condition did not improve. He died on November 5th. After a short illness, Maxwell received a public honor and was buried quietly in a small churchyard in the village of Parton in Scotland. Thank you, everyone. That was all I prepared for today.
Thank you, Maitreya Sama, for your wonderful speech. And now, Ashishda, hello. Yes, Ashishda, Maitreya Lama has completed her speech. Hello, Ashishda. Ashishda, Maitreya Lama has completed her speech. Are you able to listen?
Hello.
Yes, Maitreya Lama has completed her speech. Now we have to move forward to Mahesh Pradhan.
Mahesh Pradhan, call
Yes.
please Mahesh Pradhan.
Yes, Mahesh Pradhan from
Sir.
Sri Gyanapith Kalam. Please switch on your audio and video.
Good evening to everyone present in this webinar. Hello, I'm Mahesh Pradhan from Saptashri Gyanapith, Kalimpong. So for topic for my today is about Sir James Clerk Maxwell, Sir James Clerk Maxwell is the greatest and most influential physicist who ever lived. Most physicists throughout the world agree that a lot of modern physics owes to Maxwell. Sir Maxwell was born in 1831 in Edinburgh, Scotland, to a wealthy Scottish family. He published his first academic paper as a new method of mechanically plotting mathematical curves using a piece of twine. At the age of 14, so yeah, he was an early bloomer. By the age of 25, he was appointed chair of natural philosophy at University of Edinburgh. And within a couple of years, he showed that Saturn rings were made of small particles. And after that, he published a set of equations now known as Maxwell's equation and proved that light, electricity, and magnetism all came from same source. What we now call the electromagnetic force, that is still the greatest leap forward that has ever made in creating a grand unified theory in physics. These days, we know that electricity is what you get when electrons move from one place to another, and magnetism is what you get when electrons spin in the same direction. We also know that light is what you get when electrons move from a higher potential to a lower potential. All these are examples of electromagnetic field in action. Without Sir Maxwell's understanding of electromagnetism, there wouldn't be radio, television, microwave ovens, etc. Sir Maxwell discovered many other things too, but for one thing, he was the founder of the kinetic theory of gases. This theory led to the new field of statistical physics, which introduced probability to the science of very small things and was to be prescribed to the quantum mechanics. And he produced the first colored photograph in the world after he realized that the human eye only perceives three colors, that is, red, blue, and green. He created red, blue, and green filtered images and layered them together to make a colored photo. The first photo he made was that of a torn ribbon. This trigonometric process was the fortune to all modern color photographers. Sir Maxwell died of abdominal cancer in 1879 at the age of 48, but he had already transformed the field of physics forever. So who knows, if he had lived for another 20 or 30 years, maybe we would have floating cities and flying cars by now. So thank you to Sir Maxwell, and thank you all for giving an opportunity to talk in this platform. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes, please. Asif.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. Asif.
Achha, thank you, Mohesh. A small but concrete your speech. However, he was from Kalimpong. Then we are calling Raghuvir Mahato from Oriental Public School, a student of class 12. Raghuvir Mahato,
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
you please start your program.
Yes, sir. Today I'm going to say a few words on universal scientist James Clerk Maxwell. James Clerk Maxwell was one of the greatest scientists who ever had lived. To him, we owe the most significant discovery of our age, the theory of electromagnetism.
Raghubir, switch on
Yes.
your mic, audio and video both.
Oh, yes, sir. Actually. Sir, am I visible?
Yes, please.
Yes, sir. So he is rightly acclaimed as the father of modern physics. He also made fundamental contributions to mathematics, astronomy, and engineering. On the 13th June 1831, James Clerk Maxwell was born in Edinburgh. School at the Edinburgh Academy. He continued his education at the University of Edinburgh and Cambridge. At the early age of 25, he became professor of physics, Marischal College, Aberdeen. From there, he moved to King's College, London, in 1871 to become the professor of experimental physics at Cambridge, where he directed the newly created Cavendish Laboratory. It was the Cavendish over the next 50 years that so much of the physics of today continued to develop from Maxwell's inspiration. Modern technology large stems from his grasp of the basic principles of the universe. Wide-ranging development in the field of electricity and electronics, including radio, television, radar, and communications, derive from Maxwell's theory of the laws of electromagnetic field, which was not a synthesis of what was known before, but rather a fundamental change in concept that departed from Newton's view and was to influence greatly the modern scientific and industrial revolution. In 1869, he was awarded with Keith Prize at Royal Society of Edinburgh, and in 1870, he was awarded a Doctor of Law at University of Edinburgh. It's all which I prepared for today, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Raghuvir Mahato. Ashish Da?
Hello.
Yes.
Network is probably. Okay, thank you, Raghuvir. You have done well. Your delivery was nice. However, next, Sonia Rai, a student of class 12 from the same school, Oriental Public School. Sonia, please place your program. Sonia Rai.
Good evening, everyone. Myself, Sania Roy from Oriental Public School.
Yes, Sonia Rai, please continue. Sonia Rai, please continue. Unmute your mic. Yes, please continue.
Good evening, everyone. Myself, Sania Roy from Oriental Public School, Kalyani. Today, on the birth anniversary of James Clerk Maxwell, I would like to talk about his life, achievements, and contributions to science. James Clerk Maxwell, the man who changed the world, was born on June 13, 1831, into a wealthy family in Edinburgh, Scotland. James Clerk Maxwell was a Scottish mathematician and one of the greatest scientists of 19th century, responsible for the classical theory of electromagnetic radiation, which was the first theory to describe electricity, magnetism, and light as different manifestations of the same phenomenon. His father was a lawyer and his mother died when he was only 8 years old. He attended high school in Edinburgh Academy, where he published his first academic paper, Oval Curves, at the age of just 14. By this age, he had also completely memorized the Bible. Age 16, Maxwell entered Edinburgh University for 3 years, taking courses in physics, mathematics, and philosophy. Age 19, he moved to Cambridge University, studying mathematics. In 1856, age 25, he was awarded Edinburgh's highest prize in mathematics, the Stratian Gold Medal, and in the same year, he was appointed to the chair of natural philosophy at the University of Aberdeen, where he stayed for 4 years. During this time, he formulated and published his brilliant analysis of how Saturn rings could be stable for a long time. He also established that each molecule of air at room temperature collides 8 billion times a second with other molecules on average. In 1816, age 29, he took a professorship at King's College London. Maxwell stayed in London until 1865 and then returned to his family home in Scotland. For 6 years devoted to experiment, calculation, and writing, he helped develop the Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution, a statistical means of describing aspects of kinetic theory of gas. He is also known for presenting the first durable color photograph in 1861. Experimenting with spinning color wheels, Maxwell deduced that the light receptors in the human eyes are capable of seeing just 3 colors of light. Maxwell used mathematics to investigate the fundamental cause of electrical and magnetic behavior, producing what are to professional physicists some of the most beautiful equations he used. Maxwell's equation. In addition to his great discoveries, in his personal life, he was known for his capacity for hard work, his friendliness, personal kindness, and generosity. Sadly, James Clerk Maxwell did not enjoy a long life. He died of abdominal cancer in 1879 at the age of just 48. Last but not the least, James Clerk Maxwell's work is the most profound and the most fruitful. Thank you and have a nice day ahead.
Thank you, Sonia. Your program was spontaneous. Thank you. Sonia was a student from Oriental Public School, class 12 student. However, we are now calling Ionica Mondal, a student of class 8 from Convent of Jesus and Mary. Is Ionica there?
No,
Hello?
Supriya. No, Asisda. Ionica is not there.
Is she absent?
Yeah, not present now.
Then we are calling Ognimitra Odhikari, a student of class 10 from Johon Navodaya Vidyalaya. Ognimitra, please start your program. Ognimitra Odhikari. Prem, is Ognimitra there?
It's someone joining from Galaxy M30. Yes, Galaxy J7 Max. Who are you? Unmute your mic.
Ognimitra Odhikari, is she there?
Galaxy J7 Max. Hello, unmute your mic. You have written I am present. Ionica Mondal. Ionica Mondal, please unmute your mic.
Is Ionica there?
Yes, he has joined from another device.
Oh,
Yes, Ionica.
Okay,
please.
sir, I'm present. Am I audible?
Yes.
yes, you may start your program. Ionica. Ognimitra will be there after Ionica.
Okay, sir.
Ionica, start your program.
Ionica, please start your program.
Okay. A very good evening to everyone present here. Myself, Ionica Mondal, Class 8, School Convent of Jesus and Mary. First of all, I want to express my gratitude towards MAKAUT for letting me participate in this program on this auspicious day. Today is the 191st birth anniversary of a Scottish mathematician and scientist, Sir James Clerk Maxwell, FRSC FRS. He was born on 13 June 1831 in 14th India Street, Edinburgh in Scotland. He was a Scottish mathematician who was responsible for the classic theory of electromagnetic radiation, which was the first theory to describe electricity, magnetism, and light as different manifestations of the same phenomenon. Maxwell's equations for electromagnetism have been called the second great unification in physics, where the first one had been realized by Sir Isaac Newton. Today, we mainly know Sir James Clerk Maxwell for statistical mechanics, Maxwell's equations, displacement currents, Maxwell relations, Maxwell-Betty theorem, Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution, Maxwell-Boltzmann statistics, Maxwell-Stephan diffusion, and many more. Maxwell's parents were John Clerk Maxwell and Frances Kay. Today, his birthplace has been transformed into a museum operated by J.C. Maxwell Foundation. Maxwell's parents met and married at their 30s. His mother was nearly 40 when Maxwell was born. They had one earlier child, a daughter named Elizabeth, who died in infancy. Now we come to Maxwell's childhood and education. Maxwell's mind was always curious for every phenomenon that took place beside him. Maxwell's mother described that Maxwell had a great interest towards locks, doors, keys, and all those moving things. He also investigated the streams and bell wires. Recognizing the boy's potential, Maxwell's mom, Frances Kay, took responsibility for his early education, which in the Victorian era was a big job for housewives. At 8, He could recite long passages of Milton and the whole of the 119 Psalm, 176 verses, which seemed astonishing to everyone. He could give chapter and verse for almost any quotation from the Psalms, but unfortunately, Maxwell's mom, Frances, passes away in December 1839 due to abdominal cancer after an unsuccessful operation when Maxwell was only 8 years old. After that, his formal school began unsuccessful under the guidance of a 16-year-old hired tutor. This tutor treated the young boy very harshly. Then he was dismissed in November 1839. James' father took him to Robert Davidson's demonstration of electric propulsion and magnetic force on 12 February in 1842, an experience with profound implications for the boy. Maxwell was fascinated by geometry at an early age, rediscovering the regular polyhedra, which was very surprising before he received any formal instruction. Despite his winning the school scripture biography prize in his second year, his academic work remained unnoticed until he became 30. He won the school's mathematical medal and first prize for both English and his marvelous poetry. His interests ranged far beyond the school syllabus, and he also did not pay any particular attention to his examination performance. He wrote his first scientific paper at the age of 14. University of Edinburgh. Maxwell left the academy in 1847 at the age of 16 and began attending classes at the University of Edinburgh. His first-year tutors included Sir William Hamilton, who lectured him on logic and metaphysics, Philip Kelland on maths, and James Forbes on natural philosophy. In November 1851, Maxwell studied under William Hopkins. In 1854, Maxwell graduated from the Trinity College within a degree in mathematics. This 25-year-old Maxwell was a good 15 years younger than any other professor at Marischal and for preparing lectures. He focused his attention on the nature of Saturn rings. It was unknown that how they could remain stable without breaking up. After 2 years, he proved that a fluid ring would be forced by wave action to break up into blocks. And in case of a solid ring, it would never be possible for being stable. He was also awarded 130 Adams Prize in 1859 for his essay on the stability of motion of Saturn rings. It is now known that they are not stable at all. And it is also concluded that they will vanish in almost 300 million years. Now we come to Maxwell's personal life. J.C. Maxwell married Catherine Mary DeVore in Aberdeen on 2nd June 1858. He was a great lover of Scottish poetry. He wrote Rigid Body Sings. Maxwell's inspiration were Isaac Newton, Michael Faraday, and Thomas Young. Maxwell had studied and commented on electricity and magnetism as early as 1855. Around 1862, while lecturing at King's College, Maxwell calculated the speed of the propagation of an electromagnetic field, which is approximately the speed of the light. He also had a strong interest in psychology. With inspiration from Newton and Young, he was also interested in the study of color vision. So it has been 143 years we have lost him. This legend died on 5th November 1879 at the age of 48 of abdominal cancer. His mother also died of the same disease in the same age. Okay, so I end my speech over here. Thank you everyone for paying heed to my speech.
Thank you, Anika. You have delivered your speech smartly and spontaneously also. Thank you. Anika was a student from Convent of Jesus and Mary Ranaghat, a student of class 8. Thank you, Anika.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yes. We are now calling Ognimitra Odhikari, a student of class 10 from Johor Navodaya Vidyalaya. Is Ognimitra there?
Yes, Ashish. Agnimitra, please switch on your mic and video.
Ognimitra, place your program.
Good evening, everybody. Today I am going to speak about James Clerk Maxwell. James Clerk Maxwell was a Scottish mathematician and scientist. Was born on 13 June 1831 in Edinburgh, Scotland. He attended high school in Edinburgh Academy, where he published his first academic paper, Opulcus, at the age of just 14. At the age of 16, Maxwell entered Edinburgh University for 3 years, taking courses in physics, mathematics, and philosophy. At the age of 19, he moved to Cambridge University, studying mathematics, becoming a fellow of Kinetic College. When he was 24 years old, sharing Smith's Prize for theoretical physics and mathematics with Edward Rao. In 1856, aged 25, he was awarded Edinburgh's highest prize in mathematics, the Streaton Gold Medal. And in the same year, he was appointed to the chair of natural philosophy at the University of Aberdeen, where he stayed for 4 years. During this time, he formulated how Saturn's rings could be stable for a long time. In 1859, he predicted that Saturn's rings would be made of a huge number of independently orbiting particles which are unconnected each other, in order to appear to the eye as a solid ring. He is known for his formulation of electromagnetic theory. He is regarded by most modern physicists as a scientist of the 19th century who had the greatest influence of 20th century physics, and he ranks with Sir Isaac Newton and Albert Einstein for the fundamental nature of his contribution. In 1931, on the 100th anniversary of Maxwell's birth, Einstein described the change in the conception of reality in physics that resulted from Maxwell's work as the most profound and the most fruitful that physics had experienced since the time of Newton. The concept of electromagnetic radiation originated with Maxwell and his field equations based on Michael Faraday's observation of the electric and magnetic lines of force paved the way for Einstein's special theory of relativity, which established the equivalence of mass and energy. Maxwell's ideas also were in the other major innovation of 2 other centuries. Physics, the quantum theory. His description of electromagnetic radiation led to the development, according to classical theory, of the ultimately unsatisfactory law of heat radiation, which prompted Max Planck's formulation of the quantum hypothesis. That is, the theory that radiant heat energy is emitted only in finite amounts or quanta. The interaction between electromagnetic radiation and matter, integral to Planck's hypothesis, in turn has played a central role in the development of the theory of the structure in atoms and molecules. During the Eastern terms of 1879, Maxwell took ill on several occasions. He returned to Bigyaner in June, but his condition did not improve. He died on November 5 after a short illness. Maxwell received no public honors and was buried quietly in a small churchyard in the village of Patron in Scotland. Thank you.
Thank you, Agnimitra Adhikari. This is the
Hello. Ognimitra placed his program. It was good. However, we are now going to call Soumi Shikdar. Is Soumi Shikdar there?
no, Swami Siddhar is not there.
Is she absent?
Yeah.
Then Shahil Ahmed, a student of class 10 from Baliganj Government School.
Sahil Ahmed,
Shahil
on your audio
Ahmed.
and video. Yes, please proceed. No, your audio is not working. Please remove the headphone. Unmute your mic. Yes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shahil Ahmed. I am from Baliganj Government High School. I am very pleased to attend in this program with all of you. Today, I am here to briefly tell you about one of the greatest physicists in the history of physics, James Clerk Maxwell. Born 190 years ago, James was one of the greatest scientists. He is acclaimed as the father of modern physics. Except physics, he also made wide contribution on different fields. On the 13th June 1831, James was born in Edinburgh. His early education took place at the Edinburgh Academy. On 1842, at the age of just 10, James' father took him to see an interesting show demonstration of electric propulsion magnetic force by Scottish inventor Robert Davidson. The demonstration was inspired the 10-year-old James Clerk so much. In 1856, at an early age of 25, he became the professor of physics at Marischal College. From there, he moved to Cambridge University. One of the surprising things about Maxwell is that he was not only a great scientist, but also a poet. During 1845, he wrote his first scientific paper describing mechanical means of drawing mathematical curves using a piece of twine. At an age of 18, he contributed 2 papers for the Royal Society in Edinburgh, but was considered too young to present. His tutor presented instead of him. He applied for the fellowship at Trinity, and in 1855, finally he presented his own paper to the Royal Society of Edinburgh. The paper mainly focused on color and color brightness. One of his biggest achievements was to help us understand how two concepts, electricity and magnetism, were connected to each other. Maxwell was able to create the mathematical rules on what color you are going to get when you mix certain lights and certain proportion. Within the next couple years, he made a discovery that people learn about in their grade school. He showed us that certain rings were made of small particles. Before this, nobody had an idea what the rings of Saturn were made of. He published a set of equations now known as the Maxwell equation. There's a lot of ways in which Maxwell has an ongoing influence even in the 21st century. He told us that electricity and magnetism all came from the same force, what we now call the electromagnetic force. Without Maxwell, understanding of electromagnetism, there also would not have any radio, television, or microwave ovens. Maxwell also made a lot of other discoveries. For one thing, he was the founder of the kinetic theory of gases. This theory led us to the new field of statistical physics, which introduced probability to the science of very small things. He produced the first color photograph in the world after he realized that the human eye only perceives 3 colors, red, blue, and green. He created red, blue, and green filtered images and layered them together to make a color photo of a tartan ribbon. This helps us in many ways to the modern color photography. Afterwards, he began to research more deeply in the field of physics. He began to see the connection between the approaches of Faraday, Riemann, and Gauss. As a result, he was able to derive one of the most elegant theories. Using 4 equations, he described the relationship between the electricity, magnetism, and the propagation of electromagnetic waves. The equation is now known as the Maxwell equation. Maxwell also calculated the speed of an electromagnetic wave and found that electromagnetic wave was almost same as the speed of light. And based on this discovery, he was the first to propose that light was an electromagnetic wave. Maxwell died of abdominal cancer in the 1879 at the age of just 48. But he had already transformed to the field of physics forever. He showed us that how can we apply mathematical reasoning in solving complex theoretical problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Sahil. You have placed your program nicely. Then we are calling Rini Nashkar, Adorsho Balika Shikshayoton, class 7 student. Rini Nashkar.
Hi, sir.
Yes, please start your program.
জেমস ক্লার্ক ম্যাক্সওয়েল 13ই জুন 1831 সালে জেমস ক্লার্ক ম্যাক্সওয়েল 1831 সালে এডিনবার্গ, স্কটল্যান্ডে জন্মগ্রহণ করেন। পিতা মিডলবি জন ক্লার্ক ম্যাক্সওয়েল আইনজীবী, মাতা ফ্রান্স ক্লার্ক। তড়িৎবিজ্ঞানে তড়িৎচুম্বক তরঙ্গতত্ত্বের ক্ষেত্রে বিশেষ অবদানের জন্য তিনি স্মরণীয় হয়েছেন। তার আবিষ্কৃত সূত্রটি তড়িৎবিজ্ঞানে ম্যাক্সওয়েলের কর্টস টু সূত্র নামে প্রসিদ্ধ। তড়িৎ প্রবাহের ফলে চুম্বক শলাকার দিক নির্ণয় করা হয়। এই সূত্রের সাহায্যে ম্যাক্সওয়েল পরীক্ষা দ্বারা প্রমাণ করেন পরিবাহী তারের মধ্য দিয়ে যে দিকে তড়িৎ প্রবাহ চালনা করা হয় চুম্বক শলাকার উত্তর মেরু সেই দিকে বিক্ষিপ্ত হয়। তড়িৎ চুম্বক তরঙ্গতত্ত্ব বিষয়ে ম্যাক্সওয়েলের আবিষ্কারটিকে যুগান্তকারী বলা হয়। তিনি প্রথম বলেছিলেন বিদ্যুৎ ক্ষেত্রে অথবা চুম্বক ক্ষেত্রে সামান্যতম বিশৃঙ্খলা ঘটলে আলোর গতি সমান একটি তড়িৎ চুম্বক তরঙ্গ বেরিয়ে আসে। এই তড়িৎ চুম্বক তরঙ্গের ধর্ম সাধারণ আলোর ধর্মের অনুরূপ। অন্যতম গবেষণার জন্য তিনি কেমব্রিজ বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ে যোগদান করেন। তিনি 1851 খ্রিস্টাব্দে আবিষ্কার করেন কর্টস টু সূত্রটি। ম্যাক্সওয়েলের প্রতিষ্ঠা ছিল বহুমুখী। তিনি পদার্থবিজ্ঞান নিয়ে গবেষণা করলেও জ্যোতির্বিজ্ঞান ও গণিত দক্ষতা ছিল। সর্বশ্রেষ্ঠ কীর্তি বিখ্যাত গবেষণাগার ক্যাভেন্ডিশ ল্যাবরেটরি প্রতিষ্ঠা করেন। দীর্ঘ পরিশ্রমের ফলে অল্প বয়সেই ম্যাক্সওয়েল রোগাক্রান্ত হয়ে পড়েছিলেন। মাত্র 48 বছর বয়সে 1879 খ্রিস্টাব্দে তিনি মৃত্যু মুখে পতিত হন।
Rini Naskar, please unmute your mic. Rini Naskar, unmute your mic. Switch on your mic.
স্যার আমার হয়ে গেছে বলো।
Okay, thank you. Ashish, please unmute your mic. Thank you, Rini Naskar.
Hello.
Yes, Ashish, please.
Hello. Yes, sorry.
জি স্যার।
Rini Nashkar placed her program. It was small but smart program. Welcome, Rini. Then we are going to call Sogat Rai, Kumudini Homes High School, Kalimpong. Is Sogat there? Sogat Rai, a student of class 12 from Kumudini Homes High School, Kalimpong.
Yes, sir.
Please switch on your audio and video and please start your PPT.
Okay, sir. Kata bumlen jare.
Please switch on your PPT.
Sir. Are you seeing, sir?
Yes, please make it in the landscape view. You rotate your mobile screen. Yeah, yes, please.
So do I start?
Yes, please continue.
ঠিক আছে।
স্যার আমি কি লিভ করে যাব?
Yes, তুমি শুনতে পারো আর তুমি লিভ করো। Yes, Swagato Rai, please continue.
Hello.
Yes, Ashish da. Swagato is delivering his speech. Swagato, please continue.
So that's much I have met.
Okay, then say
So
we were not able to hear you. Please continue.
When a person dies, that's always a lot.
so do I have to speak also?
Yeah, you have to tell what you want to deliver using this PPT.
So already said everyone has said the speech of the same type
Yeah,
of speech.
please give some points that you have collected.
James Clerk Maxwell, FRSE, June 13 June 1831, 5 November 1879, was Scottish mathematician and scientist responsible for the classical theory of the electromagnetic radiation, which was the first theory to describe electricity, magnetism, and the light as different magnifications of the same phenomenon. Maxwell equation for the electromagnetism have been called the second greatest unification in the physics, where the first one had been realized by Sir Isaac Newton.
Okay, what you do, Swagato, you just send your PPT to our representative who have contacted you, the coordinator. Okay,
Yes,
and
sir.
please keep the write-up in a document and send us. Okay, it will be included in the compendium. But we advise you that whenever you are showing PPT, you must speak some of your points based on the PPT. Okay.
So points of the PPT I have made just
Okay,
right.
then you have to just explain it to. Okay.
James Clerk Maxwell as
Okay.
born
Okay.
for.
So from where you have collected the data?
Yes, sir.
From where you have collected all the data about Clerk Maxwell?
So data is from Wikipedia.
Yeah, so you mention all the data from where you have collected and send your document to our representative coordinator. Ashish da?
What file? Say that to say. What file? Hello, Prem.
Yes, in Word file. Okay, in Word file.
Yes.
You send all those contents. Okay.
Then we are going to the next student, na?
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Sure.
Seshtha Modak, class 6, Govindpur Gyanananda Devi Girls High School. Is Seshtha there?
Yes, I am
Yeah,
there.
start your program, please.
First of all, I want to thank you to all of you for giving me this opportunity to performance in this program. I am Sreshtha Modak from Baripur, West Bengal, studying in class 6 at Govindpur Ganada Devi Girls High School. Today we are here to talk about famous scientist James Clerk Maxwell. This great scientist was born on 13 June in 1831 at 40 India Street, Edinburgh, Scotland. His parents were John Clerk Maxwell and Frances Cake. He had lost his mother in an early age, though he had faced some criticism in school for his dresses and mannerism and accent. He continued his studies. Maxwell, from his childhood, was interested in geometry. He wrote his first theory. Wrote his first theory and science fiction paper at the age of 14. The work of 1846 was named as on the description of overall curves and those having a plurality of foci. He was a mathematician and scientist, and the classic and responsible for the classical theory of electromagnetic radiation, which was the first theory to describe electricity. The publication
the publication of the dynamical theory of the electromagnetic field in 1865, Maxwell demonstrated that electric and magnetic fields travel through through space as waves moving at the speed of the light. The unification of the light and and electrical phenomena lead his prediction of the existence of radio waves. Maxwell is also regarded as a founder of modern field of electrical engineering. He helped to develop the Maxwell Boltzmann plate distribution, a statistical means describing a patch of kinetic theory of gases. His discoveries, his discoveries to help the usher in the era of modern physics, laying the foundation for such a field as special relativity and quantum machines. He contributed to the science are considered by many to be of the same magnitude as those Isaac Isaac Newton and Albert Einstein. These are the honors that these great scientists has received in the lifetime are FRS Smith's Prize in 1854, Adam Prize in 1857, and more. His fields were physics and mathematics. On 5th November 1879, at the age of 48, this great scientist left us. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. Sister was a class 6 student from Govindpur Gadadhar Devi Girls High School. She
Yes, sir.
plays the program fine. Thank you, sister.
Thank you, sir.
We are repeatedly calling Shetadri Kundu and Shomi Shikdar. Prem, are they in our program? Shetadri
No,
Kundu,
no.
none is there.
No.
Then our list is finished. Then we are going to finish the program. Before that, we will invite our advisor, Shobhrata Rai Chaudhary, to deliver his valuable speech to the students to encourage them. Please, Shobhrata Rai Chaudhary, sir. Please say something to the students.
Sir, please unmute your mic, sir.
Thank you very much. First of all, on behalf of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, University of Technology, I wish our deep respect to 198th birth anniversary of James Clerk Maxwell. In fact, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad University is organizing this School Connect program of Bigyaner Dishari, and I'm very happy. Today I was just listening to the students' deliberations very accurately, because students have worked so much, and from different corners of this West Bengal, in remote corners of the hill areas also, they have developed so nice presentations. They try to explain each and every aspect of James Clerk Maxwell. He was a mathematician and a physicist. Now this everybody talked about the electromagnetic magnetic matters, about theory of electromagnetism of our James Clerk Maxwell. This concept was actually originated over a long period of time, in which world was just looking for such development. You know, as you know, Professor Saikat Maitra was telling us that on his discovery of this quantum theory, the world has got a new dimension with regard to the development of science and technology. So this is the most important thing which you have received on his birthday. This message you have received on his birthday. And he tried to prove that radiant heat energy is emitted only in finite moments or quanta. The concept of color photography also you told very nice. James Clerk Maxwell was also a polymath. You know, in our country, the great scientist Jagadish Chandra Bose worked, and he had a similarity with James Clerk Maxwell work for electromagnetic theory, and Maxwell had a commonality. Both influence science era of the age. So this is, we are proud of J.C. Bose and our James Clerk Maxwell. James Clerk Maxwell also worked with Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein, you know, he developed theory of relativity, and naturally he got this Maxwell's theory. And that, you know, that although they were living in a very distant position, but still somehow his theory and this Maxwell's theory was very much alike, and it helped Albert Einstein to work very nice. And you know, this whole physics environment, what has been discussed by the students, they have shown step by step the life of his childhood, his developments, his late age, his publications, about the photography, everything we have told us. So we are enriched with your very nice deliberations, students, and we encourage you to learn more about this type of scientist activity life. Write to us what you have learned. We have our publications. And lastly, we thank our team for organizing such a nice event. Prem Kumar, our Dr. Mr. Ashish Poddar, Supriya Tarafdar, Honorable Vice Chancellor, and other team members, and the students also who have made this program a great success. And there is no end of learning. So students keep culture on learning, and you will find that in your interest of study science and technology, you will find many things, many new areas where you can also invent many new things which are still needed by the society. So thank you very much. Science is always with us, and I bless that all of you do well in future. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shobhrata Rai Chaudhuri. Your valuable speech, no doubt, will encourage the students to know more about the scientist Maxwell, and the target of MAKAUT behind the program, that is to involve and encourage the students in science more, is mostly success so far we have seen throughout the year. However, thank you to everybody, every student, and we hope to have you in coming days also. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all.